Okay, so welcome everybody to our webinar. So today we're going to talk about something quite interesting and very keen to us. So we're going to talk about mangroves. So we're going to have three people talking. So Vinay again from EcoSud, Prakash from Association pour le Développement Durable, and Adila for Reef Conservation. So we're going to start the webinar with a little introduction about what are mangroves. And usually everybody will have around 15 minutes to present. And following that, we'll have 5 minutes for discussion, for question. And we'll keep some time at the end of the webinar to be able to have a little discussion with everybody. So what I would ask is if everybody can just mute their Zoom so that we don't disturb the presenters. And of course, at the time of the question, people are free to just talk about it. Okay, so the title of our webinar is The Hidden Power of Mangroves, Climate Allies, Biodiversity Havens, and Community Shield. So first, we consider doing mangrove conservation as a nature-based solution. So the question is, what are nature-based solutions? So nature-based solutions are usually any action that use nature to address challenges like climate change, human health, food and water security, disaster risk reduction, and also providing human being with well-being and benefits to biodiversity. So example of nature-based solution are, for example, regenerative agriculture. We have planting of forests, which like, for example, act as a storage for carbon. We have green buildings. We have reef restoration. And of course, the subject we're going to talk today about mangrove restoration or mangrove planting. So we also have what we call ecosystem-based adaptation, which is a specialized form of nature-based solution, which uses ecosystem and biodiversity. For example, if we have an issue with coastal erosion, using an EBA approach to ecosystem-based adaptation would be to use mangroves or coral reefs rather than using man-made structure or exotic trees. So what is a mangrove? So if we go to the definition, a mangrove is an area of land covered by a tropical tree, the mangrove, that grows in mud or at the edge of rivers and has roots that are above ground. So that's the definition you will find in the Oxford Dictionary. But us conservationists, environmentalists, people working on the restoration of mangroves, knows that mangroves are more than that. Mangrove is an ecosystem. So it's a community of living organisms, so the biotic form, in conjunction with the non-living, so the abiotic component, which interact as a system. And these biotic and abiotic components are linked together through nutrient cycles and energy flows. So if you talk about the biotic component, there would be birds, reptiles, mammals, amphibians, invertebrate, fishes, mollusks, trees, earthworm, bacteria. And if we talk about the abiotic component, it will be more the type of temperature, sunlight, humidity, nutrients, non-living matter like dead wood, snail shells, and sand. So these two together in interaction makes an ecosystem, and in this case, the mangrove ecosystem. So mangroves have specific adaptation to live in usually the summit area, so where the salt water meet the fresh water. So the adaptation they have are, for example, they have cable roots or pneumatophore, which are breathing roots. So they go from the cable roots that go up. So they allow the plants to be able to diffuse oxygen even if the roots are being underwater. They also have salt glands in the surface of the leaves in order to secrete salt, because an excess of salt could kill the plant. And usually they would also potentially accumulate salt in leaves that they're going to shed, that they're going to let go. So why are mangroves so important? Mangroves are an important, a critical ecosystem for biodiversity and humanity. More than 4.1 million people rely on mangroves for their livelihoods, and 55% of the world poor rely on mangroves for their livelihoods. So mainly for fishing, for finding wood. So they use it in lots of different ways. And mangroves in the world covers around 145,000 kilometers square. And they are very biodiversity rich area, which are home to a rich fauna. More than 341 international threatened species are found in the mangrove, and every day new species are being discovered in the mangroves. So why are mangroves important to us? Mangroves reduce flooding and are a natural defense from waves and wind. They act as permeable dams, dampening storm surges, reducing their damage, and the mangroves prevent around $65 billion property damage per year. And they usually reduce flood risk for 15 million people every year. So they are an important role, especially in coastal communities. And mangroves are also an important contributor to ecosystem-based adaptation. They have the ability to convert carbon dioxide to organic carbon at higher rates than any other habitat on Earth. The one that will be close by, and there's still discussion, is about seagrass, but I'll leave that to the expert afterwards. And currently, the world mangroves store carbon equivalent to 21 gigatons of CO2. So mangroves also provide lots of ecosystem services. For example, they provide wood that are used for timber and fuel. They are climate regulators, where, when I mentioned, they store carbon. They act as coastal protection. They act as water filtration. They're also a nursery and a good habitat for fish and other related marine species. And they're also a nice area for tourism. So since 1996, we have lost more than 6,600 kilometers square of mangroves in the world. And that's equivalent to 3 times the size of Mauritius. So if nothing is done, as you can see in the map up, where it's red, that's the area where the mangroves are more threatened and are in danger of disappearing. And the green are in the area where they are doing well and increasing. So as you can see, most of it is in the red. So it's important to preserve and restore our mangroves. So the main driver of destruction of mangroves are agricultural and aquaculture expansion, specifically in tropical region, and we could see in the map, mostly in Asia. So the impact of mangrove degradation is a bit less studied, so we don't know. So the habitat is being degraded, there's no as much restoration, but that's not as quantified. And the main drivers of the mangrove loss are usually the logging, agriculture, aquaculture, pollution, coastal development, and climate change. So when we lose mangroves, we have biodiversity loss, we have disruption in our water cycle, we have soil erosion, there's global warming and pollution, there's release of carbon back into the atmosphere, increasing the climate change, usually impoverished livelihoods, and sometimes people have to leave their coastal area where they were living to find new area to live. There's lower economic growth, declining human security, and poorer quality of life for local communities and coastal populations. So in Mauritius, more specifically, mangroves cover 20 kilometers square. And based on our studies, it used to cover more than 60 kilometers square. So we have lost 3 times the amount that we have now. So the main reason was they were destroyed for firewood. The wood was used for construction or for coastal development. Then they were open for boat passengers. So there was study that showed that this caused a decrease in yield of fish in our lagoon. So that's why in the Fisheries and Marine Resource Act of 1998, there's now a protection for mangroves. And restoration of mangroves has been ongoing since June 1995, and we are going to hear more about that in a later presentation. So in Mauritius, we only have 2 species of mangrove, the Rhizophora micronata, the red mangrove, and the Bruguiera gymnorrhiza, or orange mangrove or broadleaf mangrove. So the Rhizophora micronata, the red mangrove, is small to medium-sized evergreen trees, which grow to a height about 10 to 15 meters. It has a large number of aerial slit roots buttressing the trunk, and usually they have long green fruit of 50 centimeters long with white flowers, and the leaves are elliptical, about 12 centimeters long and 6 centimeters wide. So this is the species that is more widespread. So if you've been to a mangrove, it's usually that species that you have seen. So it's quite the species that is more widespread around Mauritius. Then we have the orange mangrove, the Bruguiera, which is a bit less common. And I'm sure not lots of people have seen that second species. So it's a small to medium-sized evergreen tree growing to a height of about 7 to 12 meters. It has a large number of pop roots around the trunk, and the shape or long green cigar shape of 50 centimeters up to 40 centimeters. And usually the flowers are light orange, pink, or red. And the leaf, that's why it's also called large leaf mangrove, are elliptical, about 20 centimeters long and 9 centimeters wide. So here is a map that I rebuilt up based on observation. So you can see that the red one is the Rhizophora and the orange dot are the Bruguiera. So that's the old map. Potentially that's been updated, and we'll see more. But as you can see, most of the orange mangrove is found on the east. So thank you for your attention. So I don't know if you have any question. We can take either in the There's a question about what's the percentages of mangrove around the world. So I don't have this information, so we'll need to look for it, but I'll try to provide it to you in the meantime. So mangroves do have medicinal benefits. So they use, I'm not going to try to explain what they are, but they do have. Okay. So we have some more questions, but I've been over my time, so I'm going to spend the time. So we are now going to have Vinay again, who's going to present. So he's the scientific coordinator at EcoSud. So he works on different coastal and marine conservation projects in Mauritius, mostly focusing on coral reef restoration, seagrass monitoring, and marine biodiversity projects. So his focus is more on community involvement and environmental and education. So I'm going to let Vinay again present.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. So I want to start by thanking you and your team for hosting this webinar.
Thank you very much.
Be able to present about the work that we've been doing as well. So unfortunately, we have not been working so much into restoration of mangroves at the moment at EcoSud. However, what I am going to be talking about today is more about data that we've been collecting over the span of 3 years, since 2021 up to 2024. So it's going to be a summary of the different findings that we had and talk a bit about how we've been working with the community as well. Just give me a minute to share my screen. Whoops. Yes, so as Nicola mentioned, so I work for an organization known as EcoSud. So we are going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So we are an organization that work a lot to tackle four main things for Mauritius. So we're talking about the biodiversity crisis, food sovereignty, and advocacy as well, and working with the local community. So this is a bit about how we've been working. And Nicola talked a bit about the ecological services already, so I'm going to skip that bit. So we've been working for 3 years on the project funded by the World Wildlife Fund, Japan. So through this project, we have been able to study quite a bit of marine ecosystems around Mauritius. So coral reefs, seagrass, and mangroves as well. So we've had 5 different sites where we have been studying the mangrove ecosystem. And Nicola mentioned already the 2 species that were found in Mauritius. So this is a map of Mauritius showing the different sites that we have been monitoring. It's a bit spread out around the country. Each of them have quite specific characteristics as well. For example, Le Monde is the plot that we were setting there was in a planted site, so a restoration site, compared to Belum and Vieux-Grand-Port and Île d'Orme, which were more of a naturally occurring say mangrove patches, sorry. So a bit about the protocol that we've been using. So we have been doing plots around the different sites, so 5 by 5 meter plots, taking various data along the plots. However, we've not used all the data in this presentation because it would have gotten quite a long one. So we're going to focus on whatever was most of interest for us, which was the seedling survival rates, above ground biomass, and the migratory bird population that happens in all these wetlands. So these are some data about, a graph showing the annual mean above ground biomass for the 5 different sites that we've been studying. So we can see a relatively stable trend across all the sites in terms of biomass throughout the years. However, the values differ a lot. For example, Belum is quite high because the forest, it was quite a tall and dense mangrove forest where we set our plots. Île d'Orme is quite a dense bit as well, with quite tall mangrove trees over there. And the rest were quite less in terms of mangroves, but the above ground biomass has been quite steady among all the sites. So as I said, Belum has a well-established vegetation that was happening over there. That site that we studied was just behind the Busnack, if you can picture where it is. So next thing that we looked at was the seedling survival rate as well. So along the different plots, we've been studying throughout the years the recruitment rate of the seedlings. And eventually, so we've seen quite a bit of variability for the seedling survival. There have been quite a bit of fluctuation. So this graph that you see, so we've been monitoring each quarter, but for this graphic, we've used like a mean of the whole year for each year. So there was a lot of fluctuation, a lot of seasonal variation that we've seen along the quarters as well. And there's also the site-specific stresses as well. One of the sites was Grand Port, and happily enough, even after the Waukesha event, so we did not see that much interference on the site that we had set up. We also studied a bit about the migratory bird species that were visiting us on the different sites that we've set up along the island. The Wimbra seems to be the dominant species that we've been seeing, followed by the sand plover and the reedy turnstone. So the next slide is going to be some of the pictures. I don't know if you could picture some of these when you go out in the wetlands. But Wimbra, we see some of them that do stay back as well, even when we're going into winter. During the different quarters, so we have seen a lot of variability in terms of bird population, depending on the season. So as we go into summer, the population of bird increases, and then again, as we go into winter, decreases. We've also seen for birds that the tide plays a major role into them coming to feed onto the wetlands. So a lot of the sites, such as Mopo, when we go through high tide, so there are more denser population on a smaller bit, which is uninundated at the moment when we have the high tide, but compared to low tide, where we have much more birds that will come to feed along. Sorry. So yeah, so we've seen in terms of population density, so species specific and site level differences, especially for Le Monde and Bellum. Grand Port the site that we had quite a wide bit of it, which was not populated at all by any kind of plant or vegetation. So it was just mud that was sticking out. So it had quite a bit of space for these birds to be able to feed as well. We've reached conclusion. So yeah, before I finish, so we also wanted to touch a bit about the different work that we've been doing with the community. So we've not been working in terms of mangrove restoration with the community as such at EcoSud, but we've been working a bit more for co-restoration. So we have at the moment a community-driven co-restoration project. However, as part of that project, we do have regular meetings with them where we do touch ground. A lot of them come from Résidence Lachaud. So Résidence Lachaud is surrounded by mangroves, and then they also have a Barachois, which has a lot of mangroves. So this is a community that depends a lot on that ecosystem, either for economic purposes or for self-subsistence as well. So as much as possible through our projects, we try to talk to these people that work with us, beneficiaries of our project and people of the community. So we try to get a bit more community involvement and stakeholder involvement through our projects. So we also have, in terms of tackling, so in alignment with our goal for food sovereignty, so for Mauritius to be able to be self-subsistent in terms of food. So we've set up an agroecology farm as well. So a lot of the people that form part of that project that are beneficiaries of that project for agroecology do come from those coastal communities that depend a lot on the mangroves. It is an ongoing work for us in terms of restoration as well. So we have been trying to apply for a bit more funding in terms of restoration and education for EcoSud. Unfortunately, we have not been so lucky at the moment, but we really hope to be able to go into those nature-based solutions for mangroves as well in the future. So thank you for your time. Anybody has any questions?
Thank you very much, Vinay, again, for a very interesting talk. So I don't know if people have a question specifically for Vinay again, so you can ask now. So we have some time for questions. And if you want, you can just ask online directly live, or you can just write in the chat box and we'll try to answer. So we have other question of silva.com, but we'll potentially assess them. But if there's a specific question for Vinay again, please, people can go on and ask. If no one is asking, oh, okay, you have a question. So from Ophelia, so it's the seedling survival rate seems to be high. Would that mean that this area are flourishing?
So some of the sites that we had with high seedling survival rates, some of them were from a planted side as well. So since we do it each quarter, some of the data might be skewed because of that. But it has been taken into consideration, yes. Yes. Le Monde, for example, it's a lot of restoration efforts that were happening over there. So some of the plots that we had in Le Monde were in between those sites where eventually people went and did restoration efforts over there. For other sites as well, the root system sometimes seems to be working in such a way for us that they would catch a lot of the propagules that would fall in the water, and then that would increase the rate of survival initially when we're doing the monitoring. But as we go throughout the year, you can see that there's a bit of decline, so a bit of variability as we go throughout the different quarters of 1 year.
And we got a question from Facebook is, are you planning to monitor future sites in Mauritius? If yes, which sites?
So we are, as most of us know, we depend a lot on funding to be able to do monitoring around the island. So we are based mainly in the southeast. So pending funding for us at the moment. So, however, we would be most happy to be able to get recommendations of sites that people from the community or just civil society would want us to monitor if they have anything. So we also do a bit of advocacy at EcoSud as well. We've been to the Privy Council last year as well, and we've had a positive response from the Privy Council. So as part of that bit of advocacy, we encourage people of the community to do send us their grievances or their ideas, anything that would relate not only to mangroves or the marine ecosystem, but for biodiversity in general for Mauritius here.
Thank you. And then there's a question about, again from Facebook, about all the two types of local mangrove melliferous. So can they be used to make honey?
I think there's one person that's been trying to do this in the north. So he's been in a barashwa. So barashwa is surrounded. His barashwa was surrounded a lot by mangroves, and he's put some hives over there. I'm not too sure if the bees would go and get pollen and nectar from these mangroves. However, that's a good question, something to be able to look at. But I think this is something to look into as well. I've heard about it, but I cannot confirm it for now.
Okay. And then one question we have from you. So can there be a synergy of planting mangrove as well as coral planting if the condition of both is met for optimal growth?
So definitely for us in Mauritius, especially for Mauritius, what we have seen as we've monitored. So if you go from reef to reef again, so we need that bit from the estuary so that proper mangrove forest and a proper plain of seagrass, so nice seagrass beds, so that we can eventually have proper coral growth. So these are all interlinked, especially for Mauritius. So the moment one of these would go awry, it will have an effect on the growth of whether it be corals or seagrass as well. It will in turn, so it's a cascade effect, so which will in turn affect fish population and a big problem everywhere.
So if I can add to that, so any ecosystem live completely separate from the others. Like you mentioned, there's always connection between movement. So like you said, cascade effect, and usually it comes, from the ridge of the mountain down. So all these ecosystems are connected, and usually one that linked to all is water, and usually water will flow. So yeah, so what we need to do is potentially work on all ecosystem. And like you mentioned several times, again, it's about funding. It's always the issue about how to fund all that. So that's something we really need to sort out. But yeah, that's always the limiting factor. So another question is, what is the best way to connect and meet your teams when we are available to help?
So for Ecosud, we have an email, so volunteer@ecosud.mu. So anytime or any information at info, I will type it in the chat box. So feel free to send us a message, and then we'll be very happy to get back to you.
Okay, we might have time for a last question. So how fast do the types of mangrove tree grow?
So this has been very site specific for us as well. So it depends a lot of the different sites that we had. The sediment in which the substrate in which they would grow was very different. We have not been studying that in depth. That was out of the scope of the project at the time. However, it has been something that we have been noticing as well. So the type of sediment, whether it was close to a well-established forest as well, whether it was planted mangroves as well, where these mangroves were planted, all of these had quite a bit of variability into so tree height and the diameter so we did measure diameter and breast height as well. So we have been seeing some variations where we have seen places where they would grow quite a bit faster. So from juvenile to adult, quite a bit faster, even juvenile to sapling. So in between that stage in between, we have been a lot of variability around the sites. But again, we have not been studying that bit much in depth, but it's just something that we have seen in terms of site. So different in site, inundation zone. So a lot of factors in play for this.
Okay. And again, thank you very much. So we got to the time. So
Yep.
I think you unfortunately you can't stay with us. So
Yes, sorry.
but thank you very much for your time and taking the time to share your studies with us. I think that very interesting, and I'm sure lots of people have learned a bit more about the work you're doing. So thank you very much, and continue the good work.
Thank you. See you.
You. So our next speaker is Prakash Jaddu. So he's the president of Association pour le Développement Durable. So he's an environmentalist committed to the conservation and restoration of mangroves and for the protection of coastal habitat. So he's quite involved in community-based projects. So Prakash is going to tell us about the restoration work that ADD has been doing. Hi, Prakash.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nicolas, as well. I would like to thank you for organizing this event and for bringing all the NGOs who are working on mangroves together, because we know lots of NGOs are doing lots of work in silos, and it's good that we have a good collaboration and share data and see how we can work together for our small island. So good evening, good morning, everyone from wherever you are. I know we have participants from Mauritius and even abroad. So yes, Dr. Nicolas, ADD, we have worked mainly on community-based for mangroves, especially raising awareness and plantation of mangroves. And I would like to thank my team who are also present, the past president of ADD, Mr. Raghunathan Sachuda, who is here, and also my colleagues, Ganishta, who has been helping me with the presentation. So let me share my screen. Yeah, good. So basically, I will be presenting on mangrove restoration work mainly at Le Monde, and also listing a few of benefits of mangrove for the case of Mauritius and for the research pilot projects that we are having. I know Dr. Nicolas as well has already listed the main benefits and the characteristics of mangroves, but we are going to go mainly in terms of case studies and on field what we have found. So just a brief introduction on ADD. We are an NGO established since February 2007, and our mission is to promote sustainable socio-economic development and protecting the Earth's ecosystem. We are also affiliated with the ECOSOC and the UNFCCC. So you already know the types of mangroves that we have. I mean, the species of mangrove we have. And from latest figures, it was a very nice map projected by Dr. Nicolas as well. from latest figures that we have, the most reliable figure up till now that we are aware is 241 hectares. And the source of the data is from the Ministry of Blue Economy. And as rightly mentioned by Dr. Nicolas, we have two species. In fact, this photo is from Le Monde. And those mangroves have been planted by ADD. And as per se, we have two species. On the left side, you have the Rhizophora muconata, that is a red mangrove. And on the right side, you can see the Brugueria species, which is also called the orange mangrove. I must say it is a very beautiful mangrove garden at Le Monde, and we have been doing lots of sensitization, of course, in collaboration with the ministry, because the role of the Ministry of Blue Economy, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Housing, and even Beach Authority is very important when we are having any project on field, as you know, because mangrove is a very sensitive thing, which is protected by the law. And it's even mentioned in the law that if you cut mangroves, you may have some fine or face some imprisonment too. So I wanted to show you an aerial view at Le Monde. I know this is a video where we've taken from a drone at Le Monde, the UNESCO site, just for you to have a glance on the plantation that we've had. So maybe if you have been hiking the mountain at Le Monde Brabant, at the top of the mountain, you can even see the patches of mangroves that we have planted. And I have another video to show to you with regards to our recent project in collaboration with the Ministry of Blue Economy at Le Monde. So, like you can see from the video, we had been planting, we had been having transplantation. That is, we plant propagules in potting bags. And until we have like 4 or 5 leaves coming out from the propagules, it's ready for transplantation, or we can even go for direct propagation. So just to tell you, at Le Monde, we have planted around 7 hectares. So 7 hectares, it's equivalent to some 70,000 mangroves, because if we take it as per area, or 1 meter square, we plant 4 mangroves. So it comes to around 70,000 mangroves just at Le Monde. So this is basically our last project that we had with the Ministry of Blue Economy, where we planted 9,000 mangroves. And I was also going to show you the benefit of mangrove, which most of us already know. It acts as a natural barrier against storm surges, waves, and coastal erosion, which is a very big issue for Mauritius, especially along the southeast coast. And this is some pictures that we've took at Le Monde. On the left side, you can see some uprooted phylao due to cyclone, because the root is not able to grab those very fine sand. And on the right side, you can see, due to small wave action, there are erosion exposing the roots of the phylaos, where there has been no mangroves, close or around protecting those areas. So this is an aerial photo showing you the patches of mangroves that we have planted. And I will come to the reason why we have left some spaces in between those mangrove forests that we have planted. And I think for my fellow friends from other NGOs, it will be a good observation to see that those mangroves, if you can see the picture on the left side, the bottom mangrove forest, you can see that there hasn't been much growth. You can see it, and those which are on the other side of Le Monde, they have grown very healthy and up to a certain height. And this maybe will require some monitoring, which unfortunately at ADD we haven't been doing, but we are glad that we have also worked in collaboration with Reef Conservation for some monitoring at Le Monde. And on the right side, you can see the picture of the nursery that we had a few years back for the last project that we've had in collaboration with the Ministry of Blue Economy, where ADD was hired as a contractor because of our experience in planting mangrove. And the next benefit already said to you, it is a water purifier. And I know we've got some question about whether mangroves absorb heavy metals. Yes, I mean, I've seen lots of research papers, lots of research we can do on the capacity of absorption of heavy metals by mangroves. And surely there are lots of research papers, and I know lots of friends also who are doing some research with regards to absorption of heavy metals. And the most common benefit, you already know, it absorbs carbon dioxide and liberates oxygen. And on average, a mangrove forest, it absorbs 5 times more carbon dioxide as compared to a forest which is on land. So it has a very huge carbon sink capacity. And it also serves as a nursery for marine life. And you have juvenile fish, and also for crabs and shrimp. Those who have been to Le Monde, you will see lots of crabs and even birds who migrate depending on the season in the mangrove forest. So this is a picture in Mauritius, how the mangrove forest is benefiting, because it also helped with, I don't know if Mauritian guys would know the picture on the left top. It's the community usually called it paloud, which they dig for this shell, which is edible, and they are usually found close to a mangrove forest. And also they support fishing communities with food and income. And the next activity, which ADD is working very closely with hotels and even our funders from the tourism sector. Mangroves, they support recreational and ecotourism activities such as kayaking. And maybe you will remember the mangrove forest I showed you at the top, where we are keeping some space in between those patches. It is for accessibility, and also for kayaking or stand-up paddling in between the mangroves. And it's good to keep those space so that we have the community who can get access in the mangrove forest, and even for fishermen to have access. So mangrove is really a very good ecotourism activities. In Rodrigues, it's very popular, where tourists go for adventures, and even in the north of the island, and even at Ile d'Ombre, you have such kind of activities where tourists, they just love kayaking within mangrove forests. This is one of the pictures of boardwalk in another country. And I wanted to show you this picture, which I've taken in the Beechwood Mangrove in Durban, South Africa. And I can tell you already that ADD is working on a pilot project for having boardwalk in mangrove forests. And this will be a game changer for ecotourism activities, and also improving the livelihood of communities living around, because if you have visitors, you have tourists coming, so this will benefit the surroundings. This is another picture I've took from Durban, which we are working on for Mauritius also with the authorities. It's still ongoing. It's in process. And just to tell you that, sometimes people, the communities, they see mangrove as a nuisance. Yes, it can be, depending on where it is. It can obstruct the view and all, but it has far more benefits than this, contributing to economic activities, not just to biodiversity or environmental benefits in terms of reducing erosion and everything, but it has an whole package of benefits for the community, and it has an economic value, which today with modeling we can even tell you the value of ecosystem natures. So this is a photo of sensitization with tourists and with our partners who are keen with ecotourism activities, and we have our past president doing sensitization and raising awareness. And the last, one of the most important benefit, I think we had this question whether we can produce honey. In fact, we have a pilot project which is under research, and I can tell you with case studies from other countries also that in Madagascar, they have been producing honey from mangroves, and just close by. And this, we have a photo of one jar of mangrove honey that I have at my place, and I have tasted it myself. And this honey comes from India. You have the World Wildlife Foundation based in India. They have created a cooperative of women who are unemployed, training them on producing honey from mangroves. And of course, this is under research. We have this project at Le Monde, and it's already under implementation. And of course, as per our anticipation, we see that it won't be 100%, of course, because there would be a percentage of nectar coming from mangroves and percentage of nectar coming from other flowers. It depends on the bees, because bees, they can travel up to a 30-kilometer radius to collect nectar and produce honey. So this is under research. We are working on that, and just to give you some figures, mangrove honey is produced in Madagascar, Mexico, Vietnam, even in Philippines. And from one colony, you can even get 7 to 8 kilograms of honey, and the value is estimated at $8.7 to $13 for the amount of honey per colony. And this is a picture we've taken recently when we launched our project on producing honey from mangroves at Le Monde. And it's ongoing, and we hope to find some good results following this project that we are having, pilot project that we are having with unemployed women at Le Monde. And we are also training the women on constructing those boxes for producing honey, and even training them on how to treat those bees for producing honey. So this is basically the main things that I wanted to present to you with regards to community-based projects by ADD. So you can contact us by email or by our website. Through our website, there's even my phone number there. And I've seen lots of volunteers who are very interested to come and join us for projects. So you can contact me by email or by phone. We are also creating a WhatsApp group of all volunteers so that we can just notify you of any projects that we are having around the island, not just at Le Monde. So that's basically from me, and thank you. If you have any questions, so I'm free to, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Prakash, thank you very much for a very interesting talk, and congratulations for ADD for all the work you put in doing the restoration of the mangroves, because that work is quite impressive. So well done to you and your NGO. Quite impressive work. Well done. So we have a couple of questions. So One question from Facebook is, has any data been collected or research undertaken in Rodrigue on mangroves?
I mean, ADD is not currently present, I mean, for the moment yet in Rodrigues. I think my friend from Reef Conservation may provide some answer because I know they are doing some monitoring or some small projects there. But definitely, I mean, from remote sensing data, of course, we can have it because it's accessible remotely. But no, at our level, we don't have data for Rodrigues yet.
Thank you. And was there a specific reason to choose Le Monde over other areas of shore for the restoration project? Maybe there are other mangrove restoration shops, but that people are not aware of. So is there a specific reason you choose Le Monde?
Yes, Le Monde, first of all, because you know it's we call it lac de doudou or for Mauritius, and it's very important that we protect this coast because over the years we have seen that there has been lots of coastal erosion, and you will know that Le Monde is also a UNESCO site, and it's very much visited by the tourists, and even the Ministry of Blue Economy, through our LOST project, they identify sites there where we could plant mangroves, and they were encouraging for having restoration work there. But it's true that it's becoming saturated, I can say to some extent at Le Monde, but we do have projects around the island. We have recently done a mapping of mangroves in the southeast through remote sensing and even ground truthing just last year. That is from Petit Sable to Vieux Grand Port. We have done the mapping and ground truthing on mangroves and identify other sites for plantation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And it is noted that plantation in Le Monde is not on the wave side of the land. Is that for any reason?
Yes, very, very good observation. In fact, you know, for every, I mean, all NGOs already know for every marine conservation projects, be it seagrass, corals, or mangroves, we have to get the approval. First of all, very important is a community, because if the community does not accept where you're planting, then you can already see that you can't plant there because there are some activities and religious activities going on the other side of the island, which the community, I mean, recommended not to plant there because this space is used for as activities for boats coming on this side, because we have an island in front and they use this part of the island to go to the other side. So, but we had a resistance on the other side. This is the only main problem, yeah, from community.
Because there was another question, are there any ongoing mangrove project in Southeast of Mauritius highly vulnerable to climate change in the next 5 years? But I think you already answered a bit. So it's more people, we need to do more community work, making them accept before you can, well, so, and I think that's the goal of this webinar is to raise awareness and the importance of mangroves, and then potentially people are going to be more accepting about planting mangroves when they see all the benefits.
Exactly. And one,
yes, sorry.
yeah, and one last point for Southeast for the friends who are asking question. For Southeast, yes, it's very prone to erosion, and maybe if you have gone to Southeast, there are lots of coastal protection work, especially rock revetments, hard structures. But I can tell you that we are in discussion with the Ministry of Environment for having nature-based solution put together with those hard structures, that is putting mangroves in front of the rock revetment so as to further protect and also enhance the view and the ecosystem in the southeast. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Yes, good evening, sir. I'm Ved, and thank you for the presentation and the introduction. And my question will be, and we talk about mangrove concerning soil erosion, But some places, like in the north, in Grand Bay, we see that they put stone in to prevent the soil erosion. For the mangrove, do do it have any specification that it need to be placed like according to its climate, or any other analysis that need to be done so as to know that mangrove can fit this place? Or why do you think that sometimes stone are placed instead of mangrove? And that will be
That's
all.
a
Thank you.
thank you, Ved. That's a very interesting question, and it demands further research. And I know we are collaborating with other NGOs, even with Ebony. Dr. Nicolas as well, maybe is much more placed also to say strategically where can we plant mangroves, and also how can we merge those nature-based solution with rock revetment and mangroves. So yes, we lack research on that, and it's a good idea for having further research on how we can do it. And maybe I will leave it to Dr. Nicolas as well. Also, he will maybe having some more points on this.
But
Maybe I'll take
what
just a quick question and then add more because we need to continue. And I think we can leave that at the end because that's a good subject to discuss. So just one last question for you, Prakash, and then we'll move on. So when planting or transplantation, do you put any plant growth hormone to reduce plant stress and grow faster, or does it grow naturally?
No, it grows naturally. And like you've seen in my pictures, wherever we have a project, be it in the southeast or even at Le Monde, so the nursery that we do is at the close to the site where we are planting. So it's already acclimatized, and we already put it in the low water mark, where when we are putting it in potting bags, so automatically where there is high tide, they are getting the water, they are acclimatized with the temperature, with the salinity there. So when it's in the potting bag, it's already acclimatized, ready for transplantation. And I can tell you that most of the site that we have planted, there has been over 92% success rate for survival of those mangroves. Yeah.
Prakash, thank you very much. So we'll pass to our next speaker, which is Adila. So Adila is a marine biologist. She is the project manager of SOS Mangrove, which is a project run by Reef Conservation. So Adila has a keen interest for mangroves. So she wants to preserve and conserve our mangroves for future generation. So I'll let Adila present a work that she's done about mangroves.
Thank you, Nicolas. So good evening, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So is that okay? Can you see Nicolas?
Yes, it's good.
Conservation, and I work on the SOS Mangrove program. So during this presentation, we'll talk about reef conservation, and we'll focus on the SOS Mangrove program. So reef conservation was created in 2004. It is a non-governmental organization, and the mission of reef focuses mainly on education and research. We actually use a ridge to reef approach. So these are our main projects. So from forests, rivers, to mangroves, to seagrasses, and eventually to corals, we do a lot of research and educational sensitization sessions, and also restoration works. So we'll focus on the SOS Mangrove program. So this program is divided into three main pillars. You have research and monitoring, education awareness, and restoration. So during this presentation, we'll focus more on research, monitoring, and education. So for monitoring, well, it all began with the Wakashu oil spill. So throughout the years since 2020, we have been doing visual surveys to be able to identify the impacts of those oil spills on the mangroves along the southeast coast. So we have done the last survey in September 2024, and we were able to observe that there was some oil that was still present in the sediment, but not on the roots of the mangrove. So we have done visual surveys in 15 sites around the eastern coast, and we have been able to, observe one more thing. It's not just oil impact, but I don't know if you can see the video. We have been able to see a lot of pollution. So this is one of the impacts of people on the mangrove ecosystem, and it has been prevailing in almost all the sites, all the 15 sites that we have done visual surveys in. So after monitoring, it was important to do baseline surveys to gather information and data on our mangrove forests. It was observed by our team that there was some research that had been done, but still there was a lack of information. So what we did is we selected 3 main sites, so Melville-Barachois, Les Palais-Tuviers, and Ferney. So these were our 3 main study sites where we conducted research. So the first kind of research we did is to determine the forest structures that we have in these study sites. So we have installed 39 plots, and we have done physical and visual surveys to determine what kind of forest that we have. As a result, we were able to determine that we have dwarf forest and tall forest. And these categories were divided again based on the environmental conditions, the physical parameters that were surrounding these areas. For example, we were able to categorize these forests into fringing forest, inland, baseline, so different type of mangrove forest. The next study that we conducted was litter productivity. So productivity in a mangrove forest is quite high in this kind of ecosystem. So it is important to determine the primary productivity. And this is done through some studies on the collection of litter. So what we did is we were able to construct litter traps. So you can see on the images, we were able to get the help of community members and schools. They came, they constructed those traps. We installed them. We constructed 39 litter traps, which were installed at our monitoring sites. And each month, for a period of 1 year, these samples were collected. So everything that fell into these traps, leaves, propagules, fruits, anything that fell, we every month, and these samples are being dried and analyzed right now. So one of the studies that we want to conduct is benthic monitoring. So far what we have done is we have gathered all the information from literature to be able to find out what kind of information we have on crab species and mollusks. And we started doing citizen science surveys. So what we did is we take community members along with our team to be able to observe what kind of species of crabs and mollusks live in these mangrove ecosystems. And for the coming year, we will do some monitoring in our 3 main sites to assess the abundance, diversity, and distribution of those species. So one more study that we are planning this year is actually to identify the commercial fish that live in our mangrove ecosystem through eDNA analysis. So this, we are actually working with an organization in France, and we will be taking samples from different mangrove forests. So we will be able to correlate the species of fish and the mangrove type, the forest types that we have in Mauritius, and we will be able to determine what species, especially commercial fish, that actually live and reside in our mangrove forests. This is important, especially for the community, for them to be able to understand that why these mangrove forests are important, because all the eggs being laid in this ecosystem are actually producing juvenile and adult commercial fish. And these are very important for our local coastal community, for example, fishermen. And we have actually conducted some above ground biomass studies, but in the coming year, we want to expand this study and go more in depth regarding above ground biomass, below ground biomass, and carbon sequestration in the mangrove ecosystem. So now we'll move to the education part. So at REEF, we have three main, under the SOS Mangrove Program, we have three main type of activities. The first one is the Bislamer session. So Bislamer is a mobile unit, educational mobile unit. So we go to schools. We have actually a lab inside the bus, and we are able to show the different ecosystems to the students of different ages and to community members. We are able to show them the importance of the different ecosystems, including mangroves, why it is important to preserve this ecosystem, and how we can bring any kind of benefits to the community with this kind of ecosystem. The second activity is school visits in mangrove forests. So we bring students into the different mangrove forests around the island, where we teach them about mangroves, about the ecosystem, about the benefits, about the different organisms, flora and fauna that live in this ecosystem. We have actually developed a pedagogical booklet, as you can see in the slide. This booklet has all the information, but very basic information for students to understand what mangroves are. And there are different kind of activities which we do in the mangrove forest with the students, and they are able to basically learn about this ecosystem. And thirdly, we do mangrove restoration site visits. So maybe you can watch the video in the meantime. So this is some of the activities that we do. So we go into mangrove restoration sites around the island, and we show people what work is being done and how they can contribute to these kind of activities. Okay. So next slide, sorry. So now we'll talk about the tools that we have developed at Reef Conservation under the SOS Mangrove Program. So we have the booklets, we have created informative boards for people to be able to understand about mangroves and the ecosystem. And we have also developed an application, which is called the Mangrove Matters app. So this application can be found on Android phones, and you can download this application and you can actually become a member, a person who actually contributes to research in Mauritius. So the Mauritian community can actually engage in citizen science using this application. So this application, how you can use it, so you are able to use this application to locate and map mangrove forests. You are able to record any kind of observations in the mangrove forest. For example, if there's any kind of pollution or if there's any kind of species that you have been able to take a picture of, and scientists send it into the application where we are able to obtain all these data. There's also an educational section where you are able to learn about mangroves. We have images of the different species of crabs, of organisms that live in the mangrove, for you to be able to identify these species and eventually insert it in the data sheets. And we have also conducted an activity around community using this application. I'll talk to you about this a bit later on. So this application can be downloaded by anyone in Mauritius and can be used by the community. This is very helpful for us because we actually extract all the information that we obtain from this application, and we are able to go and do some ground truthing or use this data for our research. So like I said, we actually conduct 12 citizen science surveys per year, where we take students, community members to mangrove forest, and we show them how to use this application to gather information and data for us, for anyone actually who wants to work on mangroves. And this will build up our information on research. And we have actually launched this year the Mangrove Matters Challenge. So this challenge can be, you can participate in it. Even now, you can register for this challenge. And this challenge, you use the application to input all the information in a certain mangrove forest that you have visited, and you will be eventually winning prizes based on most information that you have obtained, the most beautiful pictures that you have taken. So all this you can find on our Facebook page, or you can contact us to learn more about this challenge. And finally, we have also been doing some research based on restoration sites. So we have actually some drone pilots, team members that have been actually trained to pilot drones. So this is one of the tools that we are actually using to map areas around Mauritius to determine which site would be favorable for restoration. Okay, so now for capacity building. So we have had the chance to collaborate with International Society for Mangrove Ecosystem, ISME. So they have come to Mauritius every year, and they have shared their expertise with us. We have been able to learn the different techniques and methodologies for our research. We have also had EDNA trainings for the coming research that we want to do based on EDNA identification of commercial fish. And like I said before, we have had some drone pilots training as well. So one of the activities that we do yearly is also the workshops. So this is with NGOs, international partners, and ministries, where we gather all the different stakeholders who work on mangroves, and where they have a platform where they can actually share information on their work, on the research, on any kind of problems that they are facing. So this has been done for 2 years, and we are actually working on a platform where anyone who is interested on mangroves can join and share any kind of information. So this is still ongoing. And finally, we have also worked on restoration trainings. So one was done with the community members for them to understand what kind of work is being done currently and how they can contribute and how they can help to actually preserve these sites. And one was done with NGOs and governmental bodies. And we have also had the opportunity to attend the first International Mangrove Conservation and Restoration Conference, where we were able to learn a lot about different research that is being done around the world and what kind of problems people are facing regarding restoration and regarding the community and how we are able to work with the community to actually attain a level of success in our restoration works. So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Adila. Very interesting. You're doing some very exciting work. So we do have some questions. So one of the first question is, has there been any chemical analysis if any trace of the Wakasho oil has been absorbed by the mangrove in the southeast?
Okay, so so far we have done only visual surveys, and we have been able to, like I said, identify some areas where there are actually some oil remains in the sediment, but not yet. We have not done any kind of hydrocarbon testing or chemical analysis to determine what is really the condition there and what is happening. But I think this is very important to be able to know what is happening if actually the mangroves have been able to recuperate from this kind of disaster. But yeah, definitely it's something to look into. But chemical testing is something that costs a lot. And we, like you said, funding is an important part of NGOs. And this is something that definitely we should look into, yeah.
The next question is, when you say 39 plots, what is the average size of a plot, and what are the 15 sites you mentioned beside Palétuvier, Fernier, Le Monde?
Okay, so the plots that we did for the research, it's tree tagging, and then for the structure, we did circular plots. The 15 sites, so this is the visual survey that we did around the southeastern coast, starting at Trou de Douce and coming down till the Maibo waterfront, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. And will the benthic monitoring result be published anytime soon?
So benthic monitoring, we are still, we have actually done, like I said, some trials, but we have also encountered some difficulties because crabs, for example, they don't usually come out during the day. So we are trying to finalize our protocol, and definitely we want to publish any kind of information that we obtain from this study, yeah, in the future, but not soon, not this year. Yeah.
And very interesting app, but most members of public won't have the means to record accurate data. For example, without measuring instruments, how to objectively quantify level of pollution.
Okay, so what this app is actually designed for you to input information, but we give you a range. For example, how many fruits you can see, or how many, there's a range. This is the first kind of information that we will obtain. This will be followed by ground truthing. And obviously, for example, pollution, we ask you in the application what kind of pollution you are able to observe. So these information are still important for us, and this will be followed by ground truthing by our team, or even when we have citizen science surveys with community members, we actually go there with them and we see the sites, we take pictures and also record the data scientifically.
And another question is,
sorry,
hello?
I think you froze. Hello? Hello?
Okay. Yes,
yeah.
but
yeah, I can hear you though.
Okay, right. So the next question is, hello, if I'm not mistaken, there are mangroves in the post-Lafayette Brado area. I have not heard about this region in the sites identified or surveys conducted. Is there any particular reason why it is so?
For conservation under the SOS Mangrove Program, we have actually been on that site. There is actually not a lot of damages that has been done there, but what we are actually doing there is it's one of the sites that we want to do eDNA analysis on, because we have done some citizen science surveys there, and we were able to identify some very interesting species of crabs and mollusks. So this is, of course, one of the sites of interest for us.
Okay, and the next question from Facebook: how can the children get access to the booklet?
Okay, so we actually give them freely. We have printed thousands of copies, and of course, this is through funding. We are able to print copies, and we have actually taken the students to Mangrove Forest, and we have made them use this booklet. But if you are interested in having this booklet, you are most welcome to call us or drop by at Reef Conservation, and we will provide you with it. Yeah.
Okay. And would it be possible to create a market for using mangrove wood sustainably for making furniture? As this could be one way of cycling the eventual profits into mangrove restoration and research.
Yeah, definitely it's something to look into, because mangroves are currently protected by the government. So right now we are not allowed without permission to cut down mangroves, to plant mangroves. We cannot do any kind of research without the authorization of the government. But if we can exploit in a sustainable way, of course, our mangrove forest, especially by the community, it would be very interesting. But the community, the Mauritian people will need to know how to preserve it as well as make use of it. So this is very important. There needs to be a balance, because if you start cutting down mangroves, then there should be restoration work or some kind of work to replace these mangroves that are being used. So there needs to be a planning, there needs to be the consent of the different stakeholders, and how there needs to be a proper planning to do this. Yeah, but I think it's we can do this definitely along with other different benefits of mangroves, like we said, apiculture, medicinal benefits. I think one person asked this question, and maybe I will talk about this a bit. So the roots are actually known in various countries for its anti-diabetic effects. So but we still need to be able to study these plants to be able to determine the medicinal benefits of these mangroves. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And one other question on Facebook: most of the NGO focus on the Southeast region. Why not on the other region as well? Are mangroves not adapted in other regions?
No, definitely. We have mangroves all around the island, of course. But why we started focusing on the Southeast region is mainly because of the Wakashu oil incident and the oil spill there. But we are actually, like I said, we are actually conducting baseline studies in Melville and Palais-Truffier, which are found in the northern area. But I think some NGOs are actually doing some work around the island as well. So it's not just in the Southeast region. Of course, a lot of work is being done in the Southeast region because of monitoring and stuff. But some other regions there are some research and works on mangroves being done there, yeah.
Another question would be, is there an overlapping of dedicated site between different organizations, as most of them are from the Southeast region?
So far, I don't think so, but we have definitely, like I said, we have conducted workshops where we have been meeting with different NGOs, for example, ADD and some other NGOs, Coral Garden and stuff. They have actually attended the workshops, and we were able to actually share where we're doing some research. But I think what would be important is to actually create a platform where we can actually share all the information, even from the different ministries, from the NGOs. We are able to share what kind of studies we are currently doing so that there is no overlapping.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And did the oil sediment have affected the growth of new plants or existing plants?
So we have been able to observe some malformation in leaves, some physical effects, but we cannot confirm that this is from the oil spill unless we do further analysis. For example, the chemical testing and stuff. We need to do this to be able to confirm that this has been the impact of oil spill and not just malformation or the leaves are falling off, you know. So yeah. Thank you.
And are there any rewards to participate in the challenge, and is it only for Mauritius?
So yeah, definitely some rewards. So the challenge is divided into 3 categories. So for the individual, so anyone can participate above 18. And if you're below 18, you need the consent of your parents, of course. And then you have the second category, which is schools, which are a lot of schools have actually registered and participated in the competition already. And third is corporate, so any private sector. So for each category, you have 3 prizes. So first prize, second prize, and third prize. And we have all these details on our Facebook page, and you can contact us, like I said, anytime. We will be able to answer your questions. Yeah, but there are some very interesting prizes, so I would really recommend for you guys to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Adila. So what I would suggest now is that we have a more general question where Prakash and Adila, unfortunately, Vinayagan is gone, to just talk a bit more where both of you can answer some specific question. But one question I would have, because you're the expert in mangrove restoration, mangrove monitoring Mauritius. So what's the future? What do we need to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it?
Akash, do you want to start? You're on
I think you're
mute.
muted.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I leave it to Adila, or if you want me to answer, it's
Okay. So I think the future is really dependent on mangroves. We are a small island. We are facing many climatic challenges, and we are currently facing erosions, a lot of effects of cyclones, of bad weather conditions around the island. And we have in the past cut down many mangrove trees, and this has had an impact on the island. We have cut down the mangrove trees for various reasons, constructions, in any kind of construction mainly, and this has had an impact on us. So I think for the future, we need to think about working together on restoration, and especially on educating and sensitizing people on the importance of mangroves. This is the first thing to do, and then we be able to gather everyone for the restoration works. But when we talk about restoration, it's not just going about and planting mangroves anywhere. It doesn't work like that. It has to be done in a scientific way, and monitoring has to be done afterwards. This is the way to ensure that there's a success of this kind of project. Thank you.
So now different organizations working on mangroves. So you're doing the monitoring, Prakash is doing the restoration on the ground. So how can we have more synergy? How can we all work more together to achieve our common goal as an island?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. In fact, this is a way forward. Uh, like you said, I mean, some of the participants have said that there are lots of overlapping and lots of NGOs are doing projects that we are not aware or doing some research, or even at the academia. We have lots of research students doing their research, their thesis or their PhD research, which can be centralized. And we have initiated action at the level of ADD, and with the guidance of our past president, Mr. Agunaden, who is also present online here. So his idea was to join forces with all NGOs so that we have this data sharing among NGOs, because finally this data will be used for the country, for the Republic, and for the benefit of environment, for the benefit of the community. And we have already initiated action with other NGOs to join forces and share data where we can, because I know you have certain agreements with regards to your partners and research institutions. And ultimately, having a mangrove action plan or recommendations from all NGOs, from all, like combining one voice and presenting it to the Ministry of Blue Economy, and working in synergy with the public authorities, so that together we can have a much more impact. Because as NGOs, we have a very huge impact in terms of getting grants, writing projects. So we are bringing funds to the island for the benefit of the island. So we hope to get the close collaboration of ministry to working together as one people, as one nation for our island. And yeah, it's a bit very tricky, this question, what is the future? Because there is a limitation for everything. You know, Mauritius, we have an area of 2,040 kilometers square, and we have an EEZ of 2.3 million kilometers square. So what is the potential ahead of mangroves? Yes, mangrove is a very important component, which we have to be very strategic. And in terms of development also, we can't just plant mangroves and you can see a few years later you have development of hotels in front where we have to cut it, so our actions goes useless. So it has to be very strategic in terms of long-term and short-term projects for mangroves. And I see that there's lots of potential for research projects. What are the other benefits that we can get from mangroves? This will be very important in the future, what I can foresee. So yeah, this is basically the future I see for mangroves and the action that we have initiated together with Reef and EcoSud and even Ebony and even other NGOs. Yeah.
Thank you very much, brother. And I think one thing that comes up from your talk, what's very important, is about the community. So I think that's something that we maybe as all need to work together to just make sure we talk about awareness about the importance of mangroves, and also potentially with authorities. I'm sure they are aware, but just making sure that we are all thinking along the same line, and just to do so, yeah, like you said, that's going to be a challenge. But I think there's a goodwill, everybody can work together and just get to that. So I don't know if we are still okay to have a couple more questions. So let's say we go for a little more, 10 more minutes, and then we'll we stop the webinar, because I think there's lots of interesting questions. So we'll see what to do. So one question is, will a DIY plant it yourself, both corals and mangroves, be beneficial for people who, while practicing the activities at sea, be also contributing to be planters and recorded via a mapping system, and an expert follow-up be done? Or DIY schematic that are specific that one can do at their own cost, which following a specific guideline?
Okay, so Prakash, do you want to take this question or should I?
No, I think Reef is more appropriate to answer.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So Nicolas, regarding this question, first thing you need to understand is that you cannot just collect a propagule and plant it. This is the first thing. There needs to be a permit. You need to apply for a permit and ask for the authorities concerned for the authorization. first thing. And then second thing is you cannot plant mangroves anywhere. Before planting mangroves, there has to be a study that is done at the site. Okay, so, but if you already have some mangroves there, maybe it is a potential site where there is success, the mangroves will grow. But around the island, a lot of places where we used to have mangroves have been cut down. There are infrastructures, developments there. This has changed the land structure, the topography. So already this might affect the plantation of mangroves. So all these things need to be considered before planting mangroves. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not saying no, you cannot do it on your own. If there's a will, definitely there's a way. But I think to be able to succeed in this kind of project, it is important to collaborate and work together.
Exactly. So if I can just add to that, is like you said, yeah, there's regulation that need to be followed. Like you said, you can't just go and plant because you need to be thought of. And there's also areas that already been earmarked for potential mangrove restoration. So all that goes in. And but I think if people are willing to help, there's lots of organizations that are working on mangroves, and help is always needed. So I think instead of doing it on your own, it's always better to go and join force with people that have the expertise, the knowledge, and the know-how, and to just them yourself, you build up your knowledge and your know-how, and then in the long run, then you know exactly what needs to be done. But I think, yeah, help is always needed, so it would be easier to just join force with someone who's already doing the work. I don't know if you have anything to add, Prakash.
I think you have covered everything. Yes, we have to follow regulations. We can understand that lots of people are very interested to go and plant mangroves or even corals, but as mentioned by Dr. Nicolas, you need to have expert advice, expert who is guiding you on how to do it. Of course, after getting all the clearances from the ministries, because we don't have the right to just go and plant corals like that, or even mangroves or pluck propagules. And seeing your interest, it would be good that you collaborate with any NGOs who are here. Just go and express your interest for volunteerism. And maybe you want to do something good, but it might cause much more harm. We don't know, and it might not be successful. So it's always good to have expert guidance with an NGO or even with the ministry. Yeah.
And a question, do you have any data for Rodrigue and any recommendation if we have a project?
So we have had visits to Rodrigues for different areas projects, but I can say that in Rodrigues, the mangroves are very well maintained, they are very well protected. The population knows its importance already, but we have to, I think it is important to do some research there to see what kind of mangroves they have, what is the physical parameters. Well, baseline surveys is very important, and this would be actually really interesting. But I know the local population there are very knows the importance of mangroves and are actually protecting it and preserving this ecosystem.
And another question is, how much hectares of mangrove do you think could be ideally restored in Mauritius, considering that thousands of hectares in the past?
Well, this would be, again, difficult to determine because around the areas where there used to be mangroves, a lot of cutting has been done, a lot of development has been done, and we don't know whether in these areas, maybe they may be cleared, but they might not grow again in these areas. So, like I said, each site, there needs to be some studies that need to be conducted before doing any kind of restoration work. Thank you.
So, another question, is it possible to plant mangrove in a small pond in our garden?
Prakash, I think you
Yeah,
can answer
yeah.
this.
I'm just looking at my small mangrove plant in my in my room. Yeah, I mean, it does grow to some extent, but of course, it needs the proper environment. I mean, I have one sample at my place which is growing for the moment, but it won't be growing since it's not in its right environment. I use this sample for sensitization to show them what is a propagule, what is a plant when it's germinating, everything, but no, you can't. It has to be in its right place to grow fully. Yeah.
So I think we don't have any other questions. So there's other question that came out, but I think we covered them in a way or the other. So I think I'm not going to keep everybody else. So thank you very much to Adila and Prakash for joining us, same as Vinay again. So I think that was very interesting. I just hope we just build on that, try to get meetings, work together, see how we can all ally together to work on the mangroves. So thank you very much for your time. And again, congratulations for all the work you're doing for the mangroves. We need more people like you, passionate, wanting to do a change. So thanks a lot. And thank you to everyone for following the webinar. So the webinar has been recorded, so it's going to go on our YouTube channels. And of course, it can be shared if you want. So thank you very much for your time. I wish you a nice evening. And also, that's one of the first of the webinar. So we're going to restart. So we're going to have a series of webinars. But of course, you'll be made aware when you are carrying the webinar. So again, thank you very much to everybody. And thank you again, Adila and Prakash. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Nicolas. Thank you to
Thank
the
you.
audience. Thank you, Prakash.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
evening.